Welcome everyone to waterNEXT's first industry matchmaking session of the year. It's going to be on the utility sector, and we're really excited to get started. With gratitude and respect, we acknowledge that the lands on which Foresight operates are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Just a quick overview of our agenda today. We'll do a quick welcome and introduction, and we'd love to hear a little bit more from our ventures on the call today. So we'll be handing it over to you just to do a quick roundtable of introductions before we head into our panel, which will be moderated by our waterNEXT strategic advisor, Evan Pilkington. And then we will have a little bit of a breakout session, but we'll actually stay in the main room today so that if you have any questions for our speakers, feel free to use the chat service or raise your hand on the Zoom option there, and we'll get to your question as soon as possible. The session is going to be around 1 hour. It may be a little less just depending on how the conversation goes, but hopefully it'll be a wonderful and interesting one today. Just a quick overview of Foresight. Foresight accelerates clean tech solutions in Canada through mentorship, education programs, industry and investor connections, and networking events such as this one. And Foresight's programs help ventures to get to market and scale faster. waterNEXT. waterNEXT is Canada's water technology network, and we work across multiple sectors from resources to utilities to accelerate the commercialization and adoption of innovative technologies for the world's most pressing water challenges. With a history of world-class water innovation, breakthrough technologies, and an ecosystem that spans the country's largest sectors, Canada is definitely a global leader in water solutions. We like to say here at Foresight and at waterNEXT that water is not a technology issue, but technology is a critical part of the solution. And a nod to our funding partner, NRC IRAP, the National Research Council of Canada Industrial Research Assistance Program provides advice, connections, and funding to help Canadian and small and medium-sized businesses increase their innovation capacity and take ideas to market. They do that through helping small and medium-sized businesses in Canada to develop and commercialize their technologies. And they also collaborate with regional and national organizations on initiatives that supported the development and commercialization of technologies by these small and medium-sized businesses. I would love to hand it over to our strategic advisor and moderator for this session today, Evan Pilkington. You can kick off with a venture roundtable of introductions. Over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I hope I'm clear enough. I was actually very excited about this, so thanks for the opportunity. And again, to echo your comments about IRAP, we really appreciate the chance and your support for this type of activity because, I know these kinds of activities to me are a chance to talk about utilities, a chance to talk about the sector, but more importantly, I think it's a chance for companies and organizations to share ideas and convert this guidance and these conversations into more effective presentations or pitches to your target audience. So I feel like this is a very unique setting that allows us to convert that guidance into more rapid adoption. So I find that really motivating, and I was really looking forward to this chat today so that one, we could learn from our panelists, but second, because I really want this to be a discussion. And I know many people are comfortable with their cameras off, and that's fine, but I wanted to encourage through this initial step of maybe going through our group here and meeting the people in the audience. You can then go back on mute, but what I might do is go through our list of attendees and allow you the chance to introduce yourself, because it really is a discussion. It's not a show or a panel as much as a chance to engage with these leaders in the industry and in these utilities so that you can prize out critical information on how to get your technology adopted, how to get your solutions out there. So I'm going to very briefly, I'm not going to put anyone on the spot for any duration, but if we could go through, I'll call your name. If you can unmute briefly, introduce yourself, describe your company name, your organization name, and perhaps one motivating goal you had in attending today. Then you can go back to muting if you wish. It will encourage discussion, but it would also let our panelists and our our guests today understand who they're speaking with and what information and what topics might be motivating for them to really focus on. So I just wanted to touch on that, and I'll go through the list here. So I'll call your name. You don't have to worry about if it's your turn or who's next. But I'll go through this list and then we'll return and I'll call out our speakers for a more in-depth introduction. So if you don't mind, I'll start now with, at the top of my list, I have Peter Love. If you could unmute and introduce yourself briefly.
Peter Love. I'm actually not really in the water technology business. I'm also a sector lead for waterNEXT at Foresight. So we're having our first similar event on Thursday, and I wanted to see how it was done. My experience is in energy policy and programs, government agencies, advocacy organizations, and for-profit organizations. So looking forward to see how it's done, and also interested in water technology. So here to learn.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. And Andre.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andres Mahecha Botero. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the NORAM Group that includes NORAM Engineering and BC Research in Vancouver. And I'm curious to see some of the industry needs, as we have a variety of technologies that might be applicable for this next generation of industrial applications.
Fantastic. Thank you. David, I don't have your last name, but from ProMag Enviro.
Yeah, my name is David from ProMag Enviro, David Burke. I'm the director of the company here, and we distribute water and wastewater treatment products. And I'm here just to understand the needs of the industry better for a product that we're developing with regards to water telemetry.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Elaine Chow.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elaine Chow. I'm one of the co-founders of Sequoia Technologies based in Toronto. We've developed technology that treats human waste at source within 24 hours. So what that means is it eliminates the need to move the waste through pipes to a centralized treatment plant. So our vision is more of a decentralized waste treatment model. The technology, though, is very adaptive and scalable. So what it means is there's a lot of other use cases. So other things for the utility industry that we're looking at that might be of that might add some value is looking to kind of support their operational treatment capacities. So it enables them to quickly add on treatment to meet like seasonal peaks and load and so forth.
Fantastic. Thank you. Glenn Chu.
Hi, I'm Glenn from Orca Water. We use non-intrusive ultrasonic sensors to measure water at a granular level, both residential, commercial. We actually just got back from installing a field study at a big rental apartment here in North Vancouver. Yeah, we are providing water analytics, and by understanding water, we actually serve as a predictive leak detection system. What I'm hoping to get out of it today is just increase the network and understand what other people are doing and how we might be able to apply Orca in different environments.
Amazing. Thank you for attending. And I think this is a familiar name. We've both been in the industry for a while, but I think that's Howie from Forward Water.
Hi, just turning on my camera. Yeah, my name is Howie Honeyman. I'm from Forward Water Technologies. I'm the CEO there, and we've developed and are commercializing a membrane treatment pathway for the treatment and recovery of water from high-strength brines, both in the industrial manufacturing sector, mining, and other types of approaches. I'm here to listen to, again, what the industry is looking for, and trying to puzzle out how do you introduce a new technology into the commercialization phase. That's what I'm still working on a daily basis. We're getting closer, but I'd love, if there's any tricks, I'd be more than happy to hear them.
Fantastic. Hopefully we'll reveal some of those fascinating tricks throughout this discussion, but thank you for joining us. Karine M.
Hi, my name is Karen. I'm CCO for Watershed Monitoring and SME based in Quebec City. We are offering consulting services and technological solutions for an insightful and sustainable management of water resources through a better management of water-related data from source to tap and beyond. So all along the complete cycles of urban and industrial and natural waters. And
Amazing.
I'm here today to learn a little more about how we can connect with the water utilities and how we can adapt our products and services to better answer their needs.
Great. And thank you for joining us. Let's see, we have Martina.
Hi, yeah, my name is Martina. I'm from Kraken Sense. So we're a company that specializes in inline microbial detection systems. So we are taking the standard process of water analysis where it gets sent to a lab and you wait a few hours or days. We're doing it down in just 1 hour. So we're giving real-time results for our customers, and we've been developing our devices for a few years now with our teams of science and engineering, and now we're ready to roll out. So it's exciting to see the needs of the partners here and connecting with everyone today.
Great, great. That's really it's very exciting, these technologies, and it's really interesting to hear their range. So thank you for joining us today. Samer. I'm not sure if you're still.
Summer, we can't hear you, unfortunately.
Nope, not yet. Okay, what we'll do is we'll come back if you get a chance, and we'll see if we can work that out. Scott Foster.
Hi, I'm from a company called BI Pure Water. We've been in business since 1995, and we manufacture water treatment plants for communities and industry. And why I'm here is we do a lot of pilot plants and proofing for technologies from different companies where we'll manufacture their concepts and their different equipment that they need to go from lab scale to larger scale. And we have a small R&D group that we work in industry where we're trying to improve and decrease costs in water reuse and water recycling.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And I think you also have your phone open, or you did. So I'm going to go.
Yeah, I got it on the screen so I can
just
see a little
making
better.
sure. I didn't want to skip a
don't
second.
have a
Scott
mic on it.
Foster.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Sep.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sep, and I'm a co-founder and VP of QuadraCore. QuadraCore has developed innovative molecule analyzers that can detect and quantify volatile organic compounds and semi-volatile organic compounds in drinking water and wastewater. And why I'm here is same answer as Howie, pretty much trying to find partners that can help us get to the next stage of commercialization.
Amazing. Perfect. And I think you have that in common with everyone present. So this is great. Sina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sina Alabi. I'm the CEO of Chemia Analytics. So at Chemia, we have developed the first ever compact transportable ICP-MS system that is used for ultra sensitive rapid testing of heavy metals and other trace contamination in water. So we believe that the first step towards addressing the water issue and for water treatment and wastewater treatment is testing. So I'm eager to find out more about the current challenges that various industries have in this sector for testing water and monitoring the quality of water.
Amazing. Perfect. Thank you. Kaveh.
Yes, I'm also a co-founder at Chemia Analytics with Sina, and very interested to hear the challenges here. We have, as Sina mentioned, a very compact, transportable elemental analyzer that can be used to monitor trace levels of metals in water.
Amazing. It's amazing, the collection of technologies and expertise on this call. Thank you. And Tyler?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name's Tyler. I'm with Diachem Polymers. We are a treatment chemical supplier. We work directly with the end user and kind of make things work. I can hear now that we use a lot of analytics and equipment and other things that you people may offer. Our niche is proprietary blends of polymers, and they can be tailored to a specific situation. And we are currently working with IRAP on a development of a new polymer, which is at the very early stages, but we hope to bring that to market in a couple of years.
Fantastic. Thank you for that description and for participating. And obviously, I've been going through alphabetically, so not last but not least, Yuke, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Sorry, I'm not a SME, so I'm from NRC IRAP, so I will not be speaking.
Excellent.
I'll just be an observer.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. And again, we really appreciate your participation, and thank you for your time. We'll move on now, if that's okay. I'm going to ask if we could speak with our panelists. First, we're going to take a few minutes for each panelist to introduce themselves and their organizations, and to speak a little bit about projects they've worked on, their organization, and perhaps, if you're willing, ideally share some key challenges that your organization is facing, both in the present or in the past, or if you'd prefer, a success story that outlines how you overcame some challenges. And perhaps we'll start first with Doug Kopp. I'll give a brief overview. Doug is currently the manager of water and wastewater for the City of Lethbridge. He holds a degree in chemical engineering from the University of Alberta and an MBA from Athabasca University. After relatively brief assignments as a consulting engineer and technical sales rep, he joined the City of Lethbridge in 1990. And originally, Doug worked as a process engineer at the wastewater treatment plant and later served as the manager prior to advancing to a utility management role. Doug is a founding member of the Oldman Watershed Council and currently serves as chair on the board of directors. He's served on Western Canada Water, Alberta Provincial Council, the Alberta Environmental Municipal Water and Wastewater Guidelines and Standards Advisory Committee, and the Oldman River Basin Advisory Committee for the South Saskatchewan River Basin Water Management Plan. In 2019, he rightly received the H.M. Bailey Meritorious Service Award, which acknowledges long, faithful, and meritorious service to the industry. And Doug, if you don't mind, I'll turn it over to you, and after which we'll meet Rahim and Jamie.
Okay. So, as you noticed from the introduction, I've been around quite a while. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, and most of that is at the City of Lethbridge with the water and wastewater utility. The City of Lethbridge is about 107,000 people, and we have our source of water is the water supply is surface water from Logan River. We have a conventional water treatment plant that has solids contact clarifiers and dual media filters, UV disinfection, and the tank capacity is 150 million liters a day, and serves a regional population of 127,000. Our water plant is being operated near capacity. We approached with 90% design capacity last summer, and we have big capital plans for expansion between $123 million in the next 5 to 10 years.
Doug, I apologize for interrupting, but it may just be me, but I'm having a hard time hearing you. Are you able to perhaps move closer to your microphone, or if you have a headset that might help, but I'm not sure if others are experiencing the same.
Well, maybe if I just speak up a bit. So as I mentioned, our challenges at Lethbridge are really that our demand is approaching our capacity to treat water, and also I'm also in charge of wastewater, and have the wastewater treatment plant. It's a BNR plant, pretty conventional in nature, and again we're approaching capacity because of regional and industrial growth. City of Lethbridge is in southern Alberta, and we have a lot of food processing industry. And so we process some very high strength wastewaters from the region as well as within the city. I think the example of successful technology selection that I randomly plucked out of thin air was our application of rotary presses to dewater the residuals from water treatment plant. A classic approach to that application, or a more common one, would be centrifuges, which spin at thousands of RPM, and the mechanical staff were concerned about the reliability and amount of maintenance, and so we did select the rotary press is a lot mechanically slower in terms of 1 or 2 RPM. It is proving to be a very robust and reliable system. On what some of the context that the ventures would be interested in is that as a municipal utility of limited size, we rely heavily on consulting engineers and designers for advice on selecting technology and evaluating approaches to in our projects, our treatment projects, evaluating the alternatives, identifying what's available, and a lot of it hinges, as you might expect, on the experience of others. Often, choosing a treatment process or a major piece of equipment is not something you do routinely. You would expect a 25 to 50 year life of those decisions, and so it's we're very conservative in evaluating and deciding where we want to spend money. Sometimes piloting is, well, in the case of that rotary press, we did quite a bit of pilot work to make sure that it would work for the consultants often do cost benefit analysis life cycle costing to help with the selection process. And often in practice, depending on if you have if there's multiple interchangeable options, the selection can get left to general contractor in the context of a project. So you may have preferred piece of equipment but accept alternatives, and then then leaving it to the general contractor to find
Amazing.
the best.
This is very, very helpful, Doug. I hope, if possible, what I might ask is, do you happen to have a headset handy for the discussion part? Because it is really difficult to hear you. But I did get some critical points about your, reaching capacity, the challenges that you're facing in that respect, and also the idea of working with consulting engineers to make these large decisions, and that you rely on those consulting engineers as guidance providers for you in these major decisions that you will then be operating with for, as you say, sort of potentially 50 years into the future. These are significant choices, and these consulting engineers and their research efforts to help evaluate and determine which technologies to adopt are critical for a municipality of your size to make progress in those directions, and to learn about what's available and what opportunities there are for adoption of new technology. Is that fair to summarize?
Yeah, that's good.
Great, I really appreciate that. And if at all possible, we'll after we introduce our next two speakers, we'll open the floor to questions, and hopefully we can carry on that discussion, because to me it's fascinating, and it opens the door to questions about monitoring and technologies that help you inform when you're reaching these limits. And I'm interested in your work around water efficiency and trying to find savings so that you can offset that capacity risk in the future. So I'm looking forward to digging into that further. For our next speaker, perhaps Rahim, if you're available, you could introduce Ontario Water Consortium for us. And then, as I said, when we're through introducing the speakers, we'll open the floor to questions. But Rahim is the Executive Director of the Ontario Water Consortium, and he brings to this position an absolute wealth of experience in water and wastewater sector. Prior to his engagement with OWC, Rahim spent the past 10 years in various private and public sector roles, providing expertise in systems commissioning, giving exposure to technical sales, commercialization. He was an industry liaison. He acted in project management roles, and his educational background consists of undergraduate degrees in chemical engineering and a master's degree in business entrepreneurship and technology, both from the University of Waterloo. And Rahim is a professional engineer. I appreciate you joining us today, Rahim, and I'll turn it over to you, and I look forward to learning more about the challenges and opportunities of your work.
Thanks, Evan. And hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Thanks for that introduction. I was going to have a very similar introduction, but you did it for me, so I don't need to repeat any of it, except that I'm also chair of the board of Water for People Canada. So if any of you on the line and your companies are interested in, putting your CSR programs together and are interested in a good not-for-profit charity to support Water for People, and Water for People Canada is a good one to think about. So that's just my little pitch for Water for People. But the Ontario Water Consortium has been around for quite some time. So it's an organization obviously based in Ontario. And we aim to promote collaboration among industry, government, academia, with the focus of trying to help advance the development of water tech and the adoption of water tech and solutions. So established in 2011. Right now, the consortium is composed of about 25 members between academic institutions in Ontario and companies. And of course, we work with beyond our membership as well, including government folks and other municipal people here in Ontario. Over the years, we've supported, I think, nearly 80 technology advancement projects of different types, mobilized nearly $70 million of money in the water sector in Ontario to mainly advance, obviously, technologies, to support the advancement of technologies, to build infrastructure, lab capacity, testing space, etc. Within Ontario. We've helped create probably hundreds of jobs, supported hundreds of grad students doing their grad work and ultimately ending up in the sector that we work in, which is super important. And so, yeah, we really just exist to support the commercialization of new tech, supporting the growth of Ontario's water sector, the water industry, taking a Canadian approach too, with partnerships with waterNEXT and others. And overall, OWC just fills an important role in Ontario to advance these sustainable and innovative water solutions and to support the growth of the industry. And we're the only sort of sector innovation, sector ecosystem sort of builder of the water sector that exists in Ontario now. So that's a little bit of OWC, but this group here, I mean, I think, Evan, you have your hands full trying to moderate a discussion, just given the mix of companies and techs and what everybody was interested in. So should be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your participation, Raheem, because one of the critical roles that OWC fills, certainly I've taken advantage of it, and in past organizations that I've worked with, the critical aspect that is a unifying interest of this group when you talk about facilitating this kind of a discussion is the chance for technology validation, for performance, for refinement, to have an organization like yours that is managing a collection of assets to facilitate those opportunities is incredible. It's very rare, and I think a lot of people on this call will benefit from your insights in how to help technology companies advance their products using available R&D capacity at these universities and colleges, and then benefiting from these chances for hands-on demonstration and testing where people can touch and feel and where prospective clients can really experience proof of concept. So I really appreciate you making time, and I'm certain people will have a lot of interest in the work that you're doing. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce our third speaker. Jamie Giberson is the manager of Aspen Regional Water Services Commission in Athabasca, Alberta. Jamie has a background in water and wastewater and in forestry. His current role makes him responsible for all aspects of operations and management of the Aspen Regional Water Services Commission, which operates the regional municipal potable water infrastructure, delivering bulk potable water to the town of Athabasca, the village of Boyle, and Athabasca County. So thank you for joining us, Jamie. We really appreciate your time today. I'll turn it over to you, and we look forward to learning a bit about your challenges and some of your work.
Hi. So I guess I'm more the hands-on option for today. Working in a relatively rural community in Alberta, we have the benefit of being a fairly nimble organization. We get to see everything from, like Doug had talked about, the procurement process, working with consultant engineers, all the way down to implementing and operating. So I know I've been working with Steve over at WaterSmart on our intake. We just done a fairly large upgrade there in the last few years, and solids management is an issue for us. So I put together a little bit of a slideshow. Might be a little fun for everyone to watch, a little bit lighter here. So if you're okay with that, I could share the screen and kind of go through what we're up against with our operations here.
Please do, and thank you, Jamie. That'd be great.
Okay, so I'm gonna try. The screen share has disappeared. Try more. Here we go. Spoiling it here. Always smaller screens, tougher to get to here. Won't let me start. See if I can get right to the top and get to it here. The banner. The banner is blocking my option to start the screen here. Crying out loud. Let me.
Jamie, at the bottom right, you'll see a little icon that almost looks like a screen just next to the Zoom bar within PowerPoint.
Right here, yeah. There we go.
No, sorry. Next within PowerPoint, next to where you would scroll to change the Zoom setting on PowerPoint.
Okay, gotcha.
You'll see a symbol just to the left of that. It almost looks like someone had like set up a screen. Keep going right, keep going right, keep going right.
Right here.
There. Click that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So in 2009, the region was operating about 5 different small plants in all the various communities, and Alberta has pushed very hard in the last 20, 30 years to go to a regional approach. So they create a regional plant and pipe water out to all the various communities. So that's what was done here in the town of Athabasca. And you can see here, this was a construction site of the new plant, and the old water plant was right down here at the river, susceptible to flooding and other types of things. So the old plant was turned into our pump house. And the new plant, they constructed a large holding pond behind it so that we could move water up from the river, hold it in the pond, and slowly bring it into the plant. So, which was great. But what we found is, you can see in the bottom right here, solids management has become an issue. We are able to remove a lot of that coarse material down at the river, but the finer, I refer to them as colloidal type material or clay fines, still make it up to the holding pond. So about 2 years ago, we had a ultrasonic survey down of the pond, and you can see up in the top corner here where the water enters the holding pond, where a lot of the solids accumulate, similar to the last picture that you saw, pretty obvious. Whereas the majority of the bottom of the pond, which is flat, doesn't see a lot of accumulation, as the fines, the solids, seem to stick to the sides of the pond. So we deal with a very wild river. There's no water control structures on the Athabasca River, and we're at the launching point where the river actually changes from mountain type influence to where it starts flowing downhill to Fort McMurray. So we've actually had a few partnerships with research groups involved with some of the research around the water quality in the river, in and around the oil sands processes. So this river, you can see it break up, gets pretty crazy. We get turbidity levels, probably an exceedance of 2,000 NTU. Then as we get into the summertime, we can see the high flooding with mountain runoff and rainwater at the same time. And the picture at the right, you can take note of the water level. That's higher than average, but you can see where it sits versus the flooding in the on the left side, where it's getting up to pretty much the base of the building there. We see fluctuations of the river in the winter to less than 1 meter to, under the high flow conditions, over 6 meters, so 5 meter change. So the top left is the river during summer. When we see those fine colloidal particles floating in the river, you get a bit of a greenish or even kind of a mountain look to it. That stuff is really hard to settle out or even use gravity. And you can see how the river changes in the bottom right, where we got down to probably less than 1 meter. So large changes and large changes in water quality. So in the fall, this is during construction, you can see how clear the water is. You can see right through it. That's a couple meters down in the water, crystal clear, just about water, versus like we talked about, that very high turbid, very water, thick colored water. And then obviously during winter we have full ice cover, and the water is very clear, very clean, with very little influence from runoff. And you can see in the bottom right, we did this new intake project, and part of the work we did through the ice that was in March. Prior to the new intake being constructed, we didn't have a screen. It was an open pipe, and we had everything coming in. So you can see sticks as large as, that's an 18-inch pipe wrench that was someone had dropped in the wet well over the years. But, you know, large chunks of beaver kind of chewed up sticks, all the way to very coarse gravel. And this is what we continue to work with. The coarse stuff we've been able to remove with better screening, but we still use Lyco sand separators to pull out the finer sand. So that's what's accumulated in these bins, but we still deal with the light colloidal stuff that's coming up into the pond. These sand separators, I think, remove up to a 400 mesh size, so that really fine stuff carries on. Under really high loading, we deal with ridiculous amounts of sand, and this was why we did our upgrade. And you can see, as you deal with solids, you get problems with valving. We got sticks stuck in the check valves, so it won't close, which create problems. In the bottom right, before we did our upgrade, our old centrifugal pumps would just get tore to pieces, 2,000 hours, and the sand, you can see those sleeves on the shafts that are just destroyed, and literally like a couple thousand hours of runtime. So this was the upgrade we did about 2 years ago. We extended the pipe further out in the Thawig in the river, and improved screening, made a big difference. We converted the old water plant, the clarifiers that had been abandoned for about 10 years. We used those to settle out some more of the fines, so up to a couple 3-step process. But we still see stuff accumulate in the pond. So this is a lot of legacy material, I believe, prior to our upgrade. But we have this these solids that we now have to remove from this pond, and you can see the HDP liner in this pond, which would be easily torn or susceptible to failure if we weren't very careful in removing that material. So we've removed it with vacuum trucks and labor. So this is where your technological people can come in to help us out what we can do. Literally, we wait till some of the stuff on the sides of the pond. Again, that fine colloidal charged particle seems to attach to the side, not the bottom of the pond. So we can draw down it, let it dry out, and you know, with a bunch of work, sweep it up as long as it's dry. So you can see how that, when that fine clay colloidal particles dries, it just fragments, and it's literally, we sweep it with a broom and carry it out. Whereas the more saturated material on the far end is just back-breaking work. About the only thing that we can find that can move that is a vacuum truck. Just another image of how that material looks. And everyone always wants to ask, are there fish in the pond? And somehow they manage to get up there through the pipes or whatever, but sure enough, we do have fish there as well. So I guess that's what I have to add today. Something a little lighter for people to look at. And again, with working in that small rural utility, being nimble, we can take you know, technology or research and implement it, and we have the benefit of seeing it through the whole phase, right from start to finish, which you don't always see in a very large communities. So I will get out of this and turn it back over to you guys.
That actually was immensely helpful. Thank you, Jamie. That was I really enjoyed seeing those pictures, and truly, I don't think I would have understood the depth of your challenge without those pictures. So I really appreciate you putting the effort in to put that together. While I've got you, actually, and Doug as well, and Rahim in a slightly different capacity, I'm sure everyone on this call, Doug, you made slight reference to it, but I'm certain everyone, myself included, are genuinely wondering how you find and screen and select solution providers for these challenges, right? I mean, you made mention to consulting engineers. Is that common across the board? Rahim, I know you work with within a different framework than municipalities. But Jamie, if you have a chance to let us know, and then Doug and then Rahim, for your different perspectives on how you find, and I mean, you have your jobs, the research time it takes to evaluate. These are challenges that are massive. Do you rely also, Jamie, on consulting engineers to make these decisions? How do you screen these technologies?
Yes, absolutely. So we kind of use a multi-step approach where operator innovation is a big part of what we do. So our operators will come up with ideas, looking on the internet, talking to suppliers. The Alberta Water and Wastewater Operators Association does a very good job of networking with particularly at their annual trade shows and events. They have one just coming up here in November, which will be held in Edmonton, and there's another one that takes place in Banff each year. So that's a great place to integrate into the operator realm and local kind of solutions. And then that escalates to, we'll use contractors and people like that who can provide other types of innovation. So contractors is another big step. But absolutely, I agree with Doug. When we get to process level decision making or automation, things like that, we will typically always default to consulting engineers. And there's a few big of those big firms in Alberta that I think a lot of people use. But that's kind of how we approach it in a smaller utility where, again, we have opportunities to implement things sometimes a little bit quicker than, say, a much larger facility would.
I think, Doug, this is common for you? This is familiar territory, I imagine. Do you run with your consulting engineer, do you run pilot versions or validate some of their recommendations in-house? How do you gain confidence in their recommendations?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, that a particular utility might only make this investment, every few decades, and so the advantage that the big consultancies have is that they're working for many clients, and you may have a consultant with 20 years experience might have seen this 5 or 8 times compared to a utility over that same period. And so they have a sense of how others are doing it, solving the problems, and they also have, I think, better connections with the vendors as well. And so that's the advantage that we're leveraging. Sometimes you can come across solutions outside of the technical advice you're getting, but for the most part, like I mentioned earlier, we're a very conservative industry, and we don't we want to have confidence that the solution is going to work for us, and that's, I think, where the piloting becomes key on something that hasn't been used. It's relatively new, doesn't have a lot of references in the industry, that you can call up and find out what the experience at the other city is. So it's sometimes you have to test it where you're at and extrapolate from there.
And Rahim, I mean, this is right up your alley. In fact, I mean, what Doug and Jamie are describing is sort of the need for demonstration and validation and piloting, which in situ, which is very much what your organization facilitates. But you have an intake process which makes it sort of straightforward for you in terms of opportunities to evaluate technology. But what I'm curious about is the output afterwards for that knowledge sharing with organizations like Jamie's and Doug's, how this knowledge gets transferred from these validation projects and this R&D that you get to witness. What are the mechanisms for sharing successes and challenges that you deploy so that technology companies like those on this call can get exposure from their validation projects? Are there channels that you use? How do you share successes?
So I think Jamie and Doug have opened up a whole can of worms for us
Yes.
for us to talk about here. I mean, we are only involved in small pieces of overall tech development. Funding is limited and all of that stuff. So beyond the projects that we're supporting, I mean, that could just be a sliver of an overall new product introduction plan or a commercialization strategy of a technology, or moving it from one TRL to the next TRL level, but there's still a few more levels to go. So we are only a piece of that in most projects. And it's not just us that communicate success stories. So obviously, we communicate success stories and promote the outcomes of the projects that we support. But those things, that technology development continues on far beyond sort of our contribution. And so, the companies are the ones that are ultimately driving the tech, obviously, and have to continue to promote this. And I think there's just a few general things to talk about here. And one of them is, from companies that we see that are really successful and great at introducing new products to market. One thing is that they all develop champions that are not their salespeople, right? So they have people, and if you, I don't know, in the tech industry, like Apple, they call them evangelists, right? So evangelists going out and talking about their widgets and promoting this thing. And, these people are not part of the water tech company, but they're talking about how good it is. So, you have to have these champions, and they come from sort of these ecosystems that companies build around themselves. And again, it's not just, the people in the company and their salespeople, but the ecosystem and the supporters that you build. And that could be coming from academic partners that you're working with. So it's super important. I mean, people don't like working with academics, and totally get it, because there's all sorts of challenges for companies working with academics. But think about, if you're continuously working with a set of academics and you're helping fund their research, they're publishing papers, they're training students that know about your tech, and those students get their advanced degrees and they're talking about your processes or your widgets. This is just starting to build the ecosystem around you. Utility partners and consulting engineers, finding them as your champions is a little bit harder, but one way to do it is through your academic partner, right? So I've seen really fantastic research projects come together that are driven by companies who, are able to trick the academic into thinking the project is theirs, but really it's the company's project. And they're putting together these consortiums of groups that are composed of, a couple of handfuls of utility partners who are not necessarily contributing funds to the project. They're interested in the outcomes. They're interested in the tech. They have consulting engineers as part of these consortiums of projects too, that are again interesting, or maybe they have a more technical contribution in terms of reviewing data or outcomes, or sort of looking at that type of part of the project. And they do this constantly, so they're always building this ecosystem around them, and they're leveraging funding at the same time. Getting students funded on MyTax, for example, to do their R&D for them. You can get a PhD doing your R&D and pay them $12 or $13 an hour, right? I mean, that person is part of your team doing the work, and then they go away after their project is done. They go back and get their PhD, but they're part of your ecosystem, right? They're a champion, assuming you treated them well and they got good, had a good time with your business. So, that all contributes, Evan, to what your question of getting the word out there. It's not just, hey, putting the story on LinkedIn, but it's building that whole ecosystem and creating that chatter around what you're doing. And I think Jamie and Doug, talking about consulting engineers, and even the projects that you've presented so far, adopting the rotary press to get your solid, to do your dewatering. I mean, I think that should be pretty telling to the audience that, you know, municipalities have bleeding from the neck problems that are connected to their daily operations. So some things that are being developed, and we see them all the time, you know, they're sensors that can detect something to the, you know, lowest limit physically possible by physics, you know, but some of the stuff is not needed by municipalities, not a bleeding for the neck problem. It's a really cool tech. But you know, there's real things that municipal folks are trying to figure out. So make sure, you know, you're kind of approaching the right people with your technology, you know, put in the effort to know what their real challenges are, and then get them on board, right? And get these folks part of your ecosystem. And it's cool that, you know, there was I think Jamie, you mentioned the operator innovation program, like having that innovation come from the bottom up, or that adoption, which is really, really neat. And yeah, I mean, you know, with consulting engineers, we talked about that for a little while, and that's sort of the age-old question in the water tech adoption space when it comes to municipal tech adoption. You know, the advantages that were explained by Jamie and Doug of working with a consulting engineer that's seen the problem a billion times, and, you know, have 20 years of experience and can bring to bear sort of what everyone else is doing. That's the advantage for municipalities, but that's the barrier for the startups, right? So how do we meet in the middle? What do we have to do? You know, part of that is, like I said, build that ecosystem, create those collaborations with consulting engineers in mind. But I think it's also educating and sort of giving the tools to the municipal people to be able to be a little bit more dangerous to their consulting engineers, and to be able to give them, you know, the knowledge to be able to ask really tough questions of their consulting engineers, if this is what they're interested in. Not every municipality is going to be interested in doing this, but to, you know, push them to come up with solutions, not just, you know, what everybody else has been doing, give us the same thing, but, you know, give us something that's automated, or something that's, you know, going to save us GHGs, or something that's going to be more cost, whatever the particular driver is for the municipality. Let us, you know, show us a solution that's going to let us, you know, do more and better wastewater treatment with less resources available to us. So really, like, you know, giving municipalities tools and knowledge to be able to ask a little more tricky questions to their consulting engineers, because I think the gold mine for consulting engineers is when, you know, they're able to charge a municipality full price when they're just repeating what they gave to the municipality next door, right? So again, advantage for the municipality if that's what they're looking for, great for the consulting engineer, but really bad for people trying to get new tech into the space. But yeah, I mean, I think don't want to keep going, but I'll stop there for you, Evan.
I really appreciate that, and I'm certain, you know, hearing you talk about these things with such conviction and genuine experience behind you to back up these comments, it's immensely helpful. What I thought I'd suggest, being conscious of time, is that this is the intent of this discussion, is to introduce you to a variety of people involved in these decisions, but as SMEs in the industry, our next step for us will be to share the information, the contact information of our speakers, so that you can continue the conversation, ask questions about. I can see questions coming through on our chat that our speakers will be able to respond to, and if you wish, through myself or Bonita or directly, we'll be able to carry on this conversation so that you can ask some more questions directly about the general challenges and barriers to adoption that you've witnessed, and ask for insights about how to overcome these as we work forward. We're going to be hosting another one of these events before the end of the year, and then more in the new year. So we hope that as participants, you'll continue to attend, and we'll be able to further this discussion and explore more of the challenges associated with operating. So I think I'm in a position where I need to thank our speakers. I really appreciate you taking time from your day, and I appreciate the willingness of IRAP to support these activities, and hope that people will attend our next event. Benita, are there other elements that I forgot to share that need to be brought up at the end of this hour?
No, just a huge thank you again to our three speakers. As we mentioned, we will share the contact information of our speakers today. If you're interested in connecting with them offline. We do have a few upcoming sessions. The next session will be focused more on the agriculture sector, and that will happen on December 7th. If you haven't already, feel free to register using the usual registration link, or feel free to reach out to me, Benita Matthew, and I'm happy to send that link out to you. Other than that, I hope that everyone has a lovely rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining us today.